Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. It's been a while. Hopefully you guys are doing very well. I just came back from my Alaska trip with my mom. It was such a great time. I'll probably put some clips in here, but I know that I missed you guys a lot. There's obviously been a lot going on in the real estate as well as everything arena. Happy Labor Day. Shout out to all of the people who have came to my showings, my open houses, and they were, and they also shout out to the people who did the interviews with my landlady as she was able to select a tenant for the 2-bedroom 2-bath that I advertised about 2 weeks ago. So we were able to find the right tenant. They're really great people. I'm so glad that she chose them. She's really happy with her choice. They're moving in this weekend for September 1st, which is awesome. So currently no new listings as of yet, but like I said, I just got back from my trip, so we'll be looking into more listings. I know some people reached out to me on Instagram for a studio 1-bedroom, so I will take a look and see what's coming up, what's coming available for September, October move-ins. Long-winded introduction today. This video we're going to talk about the mayor candidate Zohran Mamdani. I have mixed feelings about Mr. Mamdani, and in this video Kevin O'Leary is gonna talk to landlords and kind of warn them about him as a future candidate. We're approaching the local elections here in New York, and whatever your stance is, whether you love Mamdani or you don't, and you prefer Cuomo versus Adams or whatnot, I'm just going to present to you what is being said about him. So obviously, most of you, if you don't already know, Zohran Mamdani is a self-proclaimed Democratic socialist. He has been an assemblyman for the last 3 to 4 years. He lives here in New York, and he just recently got married in Uganda to his now wife. And he has been proposing a number of different legislations that he would like to pass.
President Trump calls you a communist. You call yourself a democratic socialist. Some of your volunteers in your campaign say that the distinction doesn't really matter. Does it matter? Are there elements of communism in your platform?
The elements of my platform are all about affordability, and I am a democratic socialist. And when New Yorkers ask me what it means, I take them to the words of Dr. Martin Luther King, who said, call it democracy or call it democratic socialism. There must be a better distribution of wealth for all of God's children in this country.
It's like free rent, for example, free transportation, right? He thinks that people should have free transportation.
Well, let's talk about your policies, your vision for this city. Here are some of the things you've proposed: free buses, rent-stabilized housing, a $30 minimum wage, creation of city-owned grocery stores. It's a very long list of proposals. So let me ask you, if you were to be elected the next mayor of New York, what would your day one priority be?
The first thing is living up to these promises that I have made, because I've made them because I intend to keep them. And in a city of about 8.5 million people, close to 2.5 million New Yorkers live in rent-stabilized housing. The mayor, through a board called the Rent Guidelines Board, sets whether or not those rents increase or stay the same. The previous mayoral administration froze the rent 3 times. This one, led by Mayor Adams, increased it by 9%. So the first thing that I would do is start to constitute a board that votes in reflection of reality. And the reality I'm speaking of is that the median household income of those tenants is $60,000 a year. The landlords of those units have seen their profits increase by 12%. It's time for relief for working class New York.
He wants to tax the certain neighborhoods, right? According to him, he wants to tax the richer neighborhoods, right? And he targets a specific race that he wants to tax. And he's also saying that he wants rent freezes across the board. All these things sound great,
Question is, how are you going to pay for it? You've proposed increasing taxes on wealthier New Yorkers. The Democratic governor, though, of your state, Kathy Hochul, says she's not going to support increasing taxes in order to get it across the finish line. I want to let you take a listen to a little bit of what she had to say recently and respond on the other side. Here she is.
I'm not raising taxes on people at a time when affordability is the big issue. I'm actually cutting middle class taxes.
Even on the wealthy.
I don't want to lose any more people to go to Palm Beach. We've lost enough.
How are you going to raise taxes if you can't get Democrats to support it?
So I think what we've shown over the last 8 months is our ability to take that which is considered a non-starter and make it seem inevitable. We've shown that with this campaign. And ultimately, we're seeing that our vision to tax the top 1% of New Yorkers, these are New Yorkers who make $1 million a year or more, and our proposal is to just tax them by 2% additional.
He's a fresh, new, young face that is it looks very new, very attractive to millennials and Gen Z. He looks very attractive to millennials and Gen Z because he's a younger person. He's younger, he's more vibrant, he's more with it, and it looks like a departure from the old and ushering the new wave of politics. However, Mr. Kevin O'Leary says differently. Let's take a look at what he has to say on the Big Money Show on Fox Business.
Freeze the Rent has been a huge pull for Mamdani's campaign, driving Gen Z with hopes and dreams of free stuff, driving them to the polls. But like most of us, we learned at a young age, there's no such thing as free. Somebody else has to pay for it. And as the saying goes, the problem with socialism, that eventually you run out of other people's money. It's exactly what mom and pop landlords are worried about. Mamdani's housing policy could destroy their businesses and dry up all the funds. Small landlords are already reeling from higher inflation, steeper mortgage rates, not being able to raise rents to keep up with rising costs, maybe the nail in the coffin. That means no money for renovations, improvements, or expansion. It will also make it nearly impossible for owners to sell in this city.
She said everything that would be a problem with a rent freeze. Now, I understand it from a consumer perspective that you want a relief. You want to be able to afford where you live and afford to live. That's understandable. But as she just pointed out, there's somebody else who's going to be footing the cost if there were to be a rent freeze. And let's face it, most things in life aren't free.
Kevin, this will fall on deaf ears, these cries for please don't.
So pragmatically, I and others who invest in real estate have tried to get a meeting to figure out what's rhetoric and what's policy. So far for me, it's been crickets. I think it's a mistake on his part. I'm a rational person. I'm only interested in one thing, and
I also like the fact that whether you like Mr. O'Leary or not, I like the fact that he's proactive about, like, as a businessman who lives and works and invests, develops in New York, I want to know how your policies will affect how I live, how I developed, and how I go about business. And Mr. Mamdani is refusing, or at least his office is not responding to him. That's not a good sign. Now, I understand in this political environment that many people are very hesitant to talk to, quote unquote, the other side, or talk to someone who may not have the same political affiliations as you do. Regardless, I think that we need to go back to what we used to do. And even if you have a difference of opinion with someone politically, you still need to have those conversations. Business is business. Business living standards is apolitical. And you have to come together. Like, there has to be a meeting of the minds. So I'm glad Mr. O'Leary is being very proactive in this sense.
I think he has to address this. I get it what he's doing on the rhetoric, everything for free and rents don't go up. What happens on new builds? We need to build a new building. So let's say we need 20% more affordable housing. Love to invest in that. So we go to the debt and we go to the equity markets to do that. So my simple question to him is, look, I understand what you're trying to do and you got to get elected, but tell me how you're going to do this. I got to put $50 million into a building to build it, just to get it going. And the market's going to want probably somewhere between an 8 and 11% return on the construction financing. And then when I stabilize it, they'll be happy with 7-8% return. You're telling me I have to have frozen rent rates, even going into 3% inflation. How am I going to be able to raise any money for a new build?
Not just me. He's not going to be able to raise any money for a new building because he's not going to be able to collect rent if there's a rent freeze across the board, right? Not just him. And he's talking about 50 million investment as a large landlord. Let's talk about a small landlord who are mom and pop, who they are from their own salary. They're paying their mortgage, their water rates, their electrical, their plumbing, water rates. What are they going to do? They don't have 50 million in the bank. They don't have, a couple $100,000s in the bank. They're actually, I know personally, some of the landlords that I work with, they're using the rental income to pay their maintenance workers, to pay their porters, property managers and stuff, and whatever fixtures that they need. This is why they raise their rents. So how are they going to survive? Like, who's going to foot the cost?
Anybody. How can anybody, including you, by the way, you, Mr. Free for Everything guy, how are you going to get that money out of the market when the return is negative? Now, what is the answer to that? Because people should ask themselves, how are we going to get a new building to live in or to have an office in or a store in the city of New York, which is in itself a country, when there's a zero return policy, a negative return policy on capital? Now, that's what's going on here. So if you're thinking...
Businesses are going to lose. And we're not just talking about collecting rents on a residential scale. What about the commercial rents? We already have issues like maintaining commercial tenants. I know firsthand, just living in my neighborhood, how many stores have come and gone because the commercial leases are too high. Like, there was one little mom and pop store, a pizza shop, it's like not too far from me where I live in Flatbush, that they had to pay close to $8,000 in rent. They don't make great pizzas like that they make so much money overhead. But there is another place that I live next to which sells jerk chicken, famous spot, and well, they're making like close to maybe how much maybe $50,000 a month. Yeah, because it's a very popular spot and they're 24 hours. Very popular spot, so they're able to make the money. But again, they've been in the neighborhood for a couple of years, like probably about 20 years they've been in the neighborhood. Other stores are not able to make it. I've seen bakeries come and go. I've seen Boost Mobile, T-Mobile stores come and go. Rainbow left. The Rainbow was there for quite some time. A Rainbow is such a big chain store. They weren't making any money, and they were our prime location. So again, where are they going to get the capital from when they invest in some of these new buildings? Are they going to have new projects? Are they going to have financing for the new projects? Are they going to solely rely on loans from a mortgage or commercial loan? That's just negative return. You're just borrowing money. Yeah.
You're voting for this guy. You're going to continue to live in rat holes as they deteriorate, but worse, there'll be no new builds.
Right. He's right about living in rat holes. I mean, you think it's bad now that some people live in just inhumane conditions because the landlord is not doing anything. Try not collecting more rent, right? Because this is just the rent freeze part. We're not even talking about the people who aren't even paying to begin with. That's a whole nother thing. We have people who aren't paying. We have people who are backdated on the rent. There are people who are on the verge of eviction. And at the rate that we are going here in the city, they're being tied up in the court system. It takes them months to years to get the tenants out. It is such a nightmare. I think this will just make things exponentially worse.
Zero.
Yeah.
So I think he should, maybe not me, doesn't want to talk to me, no problem.
He doesn't want to talk to you because he can't answer that question. Like,
Well-
there's no answer to the question you just posed to him.
I've got,
that he
you know
will
what I
have
want?
for
What
you.
I want to do is sit him down and say, look, I got millions of followers. Great America.
You gotta have an answer. You gotta have an answer. And I understand that I understand Mamdani's stance is that he wants to be a proponent for the people, right? He's listening to the people, just like Trump. Listen to the people, try to get what they want, and market it in such a way so that people will, people will like him or whatever. But that's one thing. You have to propose something that, yes, you're attracting the right audience, but you also want to attract like common sense. And if it doesn't make sense to both parties, you have to look at both sides. Yes, you may be for the middle class or the low class or low socioeconomic class, but you also have to address the rich. And unfortunately, in a lot of his things that he's put out publicly, it's tax the rich, tax the rich. We've heard that from AOC in the past. So they're along the same lines of what they're trying to do about the tax the rich. I don't know if that dialogue will work with some people. It will work with young people because they're like, yeah, this sounds great. You're going to take care of us. This sounds great. But most of us who have worked for a while or who've been here on this planet for a while knows that once you become an adult, a lot of things are not going to be free. There are ways that you can maneuver it so that it'll work for everyone, but it's just not going to be free. Is it going to be cost effective? Possibly. If they invest correctly, yes, it could be a lucrative thing.
Entrepreneurs, families, millions of them. You don't have to go on TV and talk about this. Come on my TV. Let's just record an interview together and I'll post it and you explain what you're going to do here to attract capital. I'm the first $1 million check.
You know, there is a affordable housing industry in New York. A friend of mine is a builder of that sort of stuff. It's incredibly complicated. I'm not going to profess any knowledge of it. There is a way to get a vig out of it, okay, to get some money out of it. And it's incredibly it's tedious. There's a lot of different government agencies you have to...
Not when there's a 0% chance of raising rents against inflation.
But, you know, we don't... It's hard for him to raise rents as it. I'm not defending him, by the way. He's just going to make it worse. The question is not to add to the system that is already in place now. Is how do you free markets to build stuff? Because there is land there's marshlands in the Bronx. Why can't we build some affordable housing there? Well, there's environmental problems with that. So there's a lot of issues here that Zohan Mamdani literally skips over and says, I'll just give it to you for free.
Yeah, well, it's also something that we know doesn't work. These policies have been tried before. I'm just going to read.
You know it doesn't work.
Well,
His voters don't know.
Not only do I, but the New York Times editorial board in the 1990s wrote, "Rent control perpetuates the very problems it's designed to fix, a housing shortage." Yeah. That was the New York Times. Now, of course, they've gotten all squishy on the subject and forget the common sense that they had back in the 1990s. But the point is, we have a rental vacancy rate of 1.4%. That means there's very few rental properties available right now. We have to incentivize people like Kevin and people like the folks you know to build more rental properties, and they're just not going to do it. If there's even with the current regulations on rent stabilization, we're going to have problems. But so there has to be more incentivization, not perverse incentives that he wants to add on top of this big.
So this is kind of what I have been talking about. Like, both hands has to clap, right? On one hand, yes, there are ways that you can have affordable housing. The other way is that you gotta make things profitable for developers to build more apartments. So there has to be some sort of equilibrium here. And I think this is, and I'm like kind of like teetering the line here. I'll be very cautious about what I say in regards to some of the social programs that are in New York City. I won't name them specifically by name, just in case somebody come across my channel and they'd be like, she's being objectively biased about that. But I would just say this. Some of these social programs that have been put in place by the housing division actually contributes to a lot of this problem. Now, yes, you're trying to make things, trying to help people to get affordable housing, but at the same time, at the same rate, unfortunately, it is not incentivizing developers to build more, right? If you have your rents at 1,000 versus you charging somebody 3,000, for example, that's a big difference. You're going to have more investment in your $3,000 apartment, and hence more capital to raising more capital, and then you'll be able to build more apartments. So yeah.
Hey, good regulations.
The strategy of these leftists is to...
Oh yeah, the regulations don't help either. And we've talked about this in other videos as well. New York City building codes and zoning has been a pain in the developers. Yeah. So that in itself is a challenge, but they really do their best to overcome that. I don't know how, because the cranes are still going up, the buildings are definitely still going up. And I don't know if you've noticed, but there are some developers, if they're not able to build high, their multi family building, they're able to do maybe like a 2-3 family building and call it a day, and they'll have their rents at market rate. And yeah, and that's kind of how it goes.
Fail up. So he comes in and he's mayor of New York City. He puts these policies in place, and it takes a period of years for them to really show themselves. And by the time that's happening, he's already moved on to run for governor. And somebody else comes into New York City and has to try to figure out how to make sense of this. He doesn't have answers to your questions. He doesn't look at a 135-pound bar on a bench press and understand the implications of that.
I'm done. I did see that. I did see that bench press video. He was trying to bench press. Unfortunately, he had like a spotter, and the spotter was holding the bar as he was bench pressing. That kind of looks a little on the weak side, but yeah, I don't know. He was trying to flex on somebody.
No way he understands what you're talking about. So he just doesn't answer. And I agree. We understand what rent control does.
I think he probably does know the answer to the question. He just can't answer it publicly because he wants to, there are politicians who talk a good talk and talk a good game, so that when they actually get in there, they do something completely different. He might be one of those, or maybe he's, I don't know. Or maybe he's one of those that like, I really think that I can do it. I really think that I can get past some of these legislations without answering. I don't know how, but I'm going to try and make a way. Maybe. I don't know. But that's not a good sign. You should, if you're proposing something, you should be able to talk about it, talk with leaders, like have a collaboration, because he sat there on Kirsten Wilkins' show and he was talking about, I want to talk with some of the people and have a collaboration. We should work together. I'm going to put the clip in there. But he's not doing it. One of the members of the community is reaching out to you and you're not doing it. Whether or not O'Leary is lying, I don't know. But I mean, he's saying that he wants to make a bridge. Yeah, you're going to be working with these people.
But I am telling you, the people in the city who love him do not get it.
And by the way,
they do not get it, and they think he's just going to figure it out. Those are their words. He'll figure it out.
Well, remember, rent control, it's rent stabilization. Rent control is a portion of it, is a state law. Okay? It's approved.
How's it working out?
Not very well. And want to hear something really interesting? So Andrew Cuomo, who I personally really like, went after Mamdani on living in a rent-stabilized apartment. We should point out that 50% of all apartments, almost every apartment in New York is some sort of stabilization, except for the very high end, right? And obviously doesn't affect housing ownership. So he goes after him on rent stabilization, saying, "Oh, you make $150,000 a year as a congressman or what, assemblyman, and your wife is rich." And you shouldn't be able to live in a place for $2,500 a month. What Cuomo left out is that he took away some of the caps on rent stabilization that would have forced Mamdani to pay what's known as a market rate on that apartment, because Andrew Cuomo took away the cap.
That market rate's probably $7,500.
By the way, I still don't understand how a poor person, and this is what I'm going to ask Andrew this. How does a poor person, because he mentioned a single mother, poor single mother, she should be in that apartment. How does she afford $2,500 a month rent? It's still too high.
She can't. She's got to move in with family.
Yeah, that's the whole thing.
Trying to accommodate everybody to live in the most expensive city to live in. And it's impossible, particularly as we're going to see people like Kevin and other entrepreneurs.
This is where the rich people and the poor kind of departure, right? It's like, how am I gonna do it? How are they gonna live together? She's gonna have to move in with her family, and yeah, they're a little bit out of touch right here in this little brief segment, right? How is a mother of blah 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 is gonna afford a $2,500? You'll be surprised. Mama is a hustler. Most mothers are hustlers, so she's gonna find a way to pay that rent, whether it be through subsidized housing, or she got some sugar daddy, which these days is probably the reverse, sugar mama. But she will find a way to pay that rent, trust and believe, or get the rent paid.
Entrepreneurs move out of the city.
Wait till everybody
all
leaves,
these new
then she
regulations.
can afford that apartment, because people are going to leave.
All the tax money is going away.
Oh, for sure, people are gonna leave. Oh yeah, if they haven't already started to leave. And I think that some I remember there was a guy, I forgot his name, the CEO of Christie's. He said he said if he gets elected, he's going to remove some of his New York stores out of here. I don't blame him, because if you don't have an answer on how you are going to incentivize certain things, you're going to cause, I'm telling you, it's going to cause rippling effects in not just residential real estate, in commercial real estate as well.
Plea to New Yorkers, let me invest in you. Let investors like me invest in you. Do not let this guy become your mayor until he explains what's rhetoric and what's policy. I believe in rhetoric. I think politicians should say anything they want during a campaign if they think they can win. But what's the real policy? And he won't meet with any of us. None of us.
He did meet with some business leaders. I will say this. He's not that much different than the rank and file Democrats in this city and state, just so you know. Not that much different.
Look, Charlie, it doesn't have to be me. Just meet with anybody, and then that person
I'm just
tell
telling
us what he's doing.
you as a businessman, if you're thinking of putting money here, say Mamdani
I want to.
Say Mamdani loses and Cuomo gets in there, or Eric Adams, or maybe Curtis. Take Curtis out because he'll be much more free market. If you have a Democrat, a conventional Democrat in that seat, he's never going to govern that much different than Mamdani. He's literally the tip of the spear of something.
But would he give me a permit? Would he let me at least raise rents to inflation?
Maybe.
Well, that's a real gift.
Would they?
Remember, he also hates cops. He hates cops. The hatred was just spewing out of his Twitter posts of a couple of years ago. Now he claims that he's fine with them after a cop was killed the other week. But this guy hates police, and he's still.
Well, he is doing a lot of things to appeal to a certain demographic of people who were for defund the police and the BLMs. He's also appealing to people that are anti-establishment. So this is probably why he's not meeting with O'Leary, and he's meeting with some leaders who are more aligned with what he is proposing. This kind of get in and find out thing, like, I understand it to a degree. the degree of understanding is that, remember way back when President Trump was, before he got into office, he was a social media influencer, a celebrity. However, he was a businessman. He was in real estate. He was a real estate developer. He hired people. He was a builder. So you can see proof that he had a full career in hiring, firing people, being a businessman. But Mamdani, all we know about him is that he was previously a rapper and now an assemblyman for a couple of years, working with AOC, Alexandra Ocasio-Cortez, on some policies. I don't know what policies he's passed. And that's really it. Not much about this guy. He's literally came out of nowhere, in my opinion. He just came out of nowhere. Again, I understand the appeal for him because of his newness, his youthfulness, his kind of like optimism to change the world, so to speak, and be there for the everyday man. But I think that the people who love him will love him. The people who don't love him won't love him, and there's nothing that's going to change. But I think if you're a person with a level head and you kind of see things for what they are, you'll have questions, for sure. You'll have questions like, how is that going to work? Like, you can propose all of these great things, but please tell us how it's going to work. And maybe we'll have a little bit more confidence. I think that is what Mr. O'Leary is, and the others on the panelists are asking, even though they're giving personal jabs about him. I think the bottom line is, how are you going to propose these plans and actually implement them?
Bill wants to de-police our city. He wants to get rid of jails, the whole shebang.
He's a very bad guy to be in office. We all know that. I'm just telling you, in this state, knowing what I know about state politics, he's really not he's really part of the
After having said all this stuff about him, let's invite him to the panel here.
I've tried. He never calls. He doesn't return calls.
You can use my name.
Trust me on this.
That and 250 will get him into the subway.
He's not exactly like giving interviews out, except for to maybe, I don't know.
I've tried to staff. I've done everything I can, and it's been crickets. Crickets.
That kind of sucks. You should be able to have a conversation with people who you may not like. People who may attack you publicly behind closed doors or whatnot. Yeah, you definitely should have some sort of decorum and be able to converse with somebody who you don't necessarily agree with. Yeah, so we shall see. This will be one of few Mamdani videos that I am going to post. I don't know, and unless he says something like egregious or something like that, I doubt that I'm gonna post anything on Mamdani. Well, I'll just let the chips fall as they may, and we shall see if he's going to be our next mayor. Or everybody already knows about Cuomo. Everybody already knows about Adams. So we will see what comes out of this race. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.